Hi, I'm here with Meg Waldron. Meg Waldron has a master's in sports psychology. She's a mental performance coach. In high school, she was an All American. At the Penn Relays, actually, in high school, she was a champion in the 800 meters. And she's been coaching runners for over 20 years. And currently, she is also helping runners around the country of all levels with mental performance.
Thank you, Doug. And this is Doug Petrick, one of my favorite humans on the planet. He's an amazing coach and teacher. Anybody who gets to work with him is lucky. Doug coaches at Upper St. Clair High School. It's a suburb of Pittsburgh. He's been coaching for 17 years, and he lives in the district where he teaches with his family.
Cool. Well, thank you, Meg. I think what we'll do, we'll get right into questions. We got some very good questions from coaches on social media. So if you're okay with it, I'll just start off with the first one. So the first question we have, I'm going to sort of paraphrase it. It says, this coach said, he's come across many athletes who seem to be forced in the track by their parents. These athletes are expected to perform a certain way and win and then get scholarships. This coach is worried that these athletes get berated on the track or at home. And so the questions he has, there's two of them. The first one is, how can we properly balance the goal of maximizing performance with these massive demands the kids have on them? And then the second part that we can get to in a minute is when that runner is stressed out and anxious at the starting line, how can the coach respond to that? So Meg, are you okay with answering that first part, the whole balance of maximizing performance and massive demands on these kids?
Yeah, so and there is I'm amazed at how much homework they get too. I mean, they have there's and they're overscheduled, a lot of kids. So and I've seen that before. There is a lot of, somebody used the phrase futurism. So the kids are getting a lot of messaging either from the home or social media or friends around things happening earlier than they used to. So, um, taking AP classes starting your sophomore year, make early committing to college your junior year when you're 17 years old, things like that. So there's this energy and this momentum that doesn't necessarily serve the kids. So how do we help them balance that, or pressure they might be getting from home? And number one is I like to think of a proactive approach. So coaches can work together with athletic directors to establish a culture within the sports programs of a school that are healthy and support good mental health and what kids are truly seeking, which is to feel successful and to feel included. Those are big motivators for adolescents. So is there a way proactively that something can be sent out at the beginning of each season that says, these are our goals. This is the culture we want to create. How can you be a part of that culture? How can you support these ideals within the school and within your home? And then if there is an athlete that is getting a lot of pressure from a parent or getting berated for not performing well, number one, I mean, that's that child's journey. There's only so much you can do to intervene. And so the key really is helping them cope with that situation and helping them feel empowered by setting their own goals within the program. And all coaches know you're going to have a whole group of kids that are just there because they want to be with their friends and they don't want to go home after school and just do nothing. So, and I think a lot of high school coaches have adapted their programs to also include, things that engage the whole group, games, fun way, life skills. We're going to set goals today. This is how we set goals. And so that the kids are getting something out of it. So they're still going to get the benefits: teamwork, confidence, goal setting, hard work, working through difficult feelings, navigating conflict. All those are life skills. And then you incorporate traditions. We used to have different traditions growing up of running to an apple orchard and picking apples. Or once we would do a run where we would stop at a dairy farm and get ice cream cones and then walk the rest of the way back. And that was in the summers on Wednesday nights, so just different traditions that become a part of the bigger picture of the sport and not just focusing on the finish line and the time.
I really like that answer because I know I teach the high school level, and I have mostly older students, juniors, but coaching, it's all grade levels. And I find that what you said at the end is them having a sense of belonging and feeling like a part of a group. Those ninth and 10th grade years are like so important. And I really like that you touched on that, making them feel welcome regardless of the ability level too. That was really good stuff. So the second part of it, Meg, they talk about if a runner is like stressed and anxious at the start line, how would a coach respond? Like, what would a coach do in that kind of situation at a competition?
And I was thinking, you and I talked a little bit before that I started recording, and you were talking about how you rehearse a lot of these things in practice before you even get to the starting line. So that's probably going on with a lot of coaches out there. One of the things I do with kids is I say, anxiety is fear of the future, right? So you're afraid either something that happened in the past will repeat itself, or you're afraid you're going to be embarrassed, right? Sometimes once they understand what that is, it gives them a little space. Oh, that's what my brain is doing. My brain is wired to do that in really dire situations to protect me. But this isn't really a dire situation. I'm just going to run around the track and then stop at a certain point, right? And so they kind of laugh, get some space around that. And then, if you're a coach in that situation, the overthinking is thinking without having anything to do. So I often will give kids a task. So I'll say, like my coach was Mark Wetmore, that was my youth coach. He was from my town of Bernardsville, New Jersey. And he's now he's the coach the very successful coach at Colorado. He's coached multiple Olympians, Emma Coburn, Jenny Simpson, et cetera, Kara Goucher. So anyway, he was really great at coming up with short sound bites to help us get through a race. So he would say, Meg, when the gun goes off, go to the back of the pack. And then he said, run so slow your grandmother would be embarrassed to see you running. So that brought a smile to my face. I became a master pacer. One of my best strengths as a runner was pace, because he would say things like that. So then I wouldn't run slow. The biggest mistake runners make is they go out too fast, especially if they're anxious. The other thing is, you can say, all right, when you get to this next straightaway, count 10 steps. You're just giving them something to do. And you say, count 10 steps, and then you're probably going to find where you'll look up and you'll see that you're where you need to be. They're just looking for reassurance. So if you give them a task to do, how they're going to run the first turn and how they're going to run that first straightaway, then they're usually good. So if that's what they're thinking about, then on the starting line. Another funny thing Mark used to say is, when you get to the starting line, put a bunch of rocks in your mouth and then spit out gravel. And that was a way to, he'd say, oh, they'll see how tough you are. That's how you intimidate your opponents. So in my mind, I was laughing at this funny thing he just told me, or was thinking about this thing that he told me to do, run to the back of the pack, count my steps, come through in this time. And by then the anxiety was gone.
Great advice. And I could visualize everything that you said. I could see it in my head. So we're going to move on to the second question. So Meg, with this one, so it's kind of in the vein of confidence and mental fortitude. So it says, the biggest question that I have is how we as coaches can foster the confidence and mental fortitude that runners need to make that next step. And this coach says for them, the biggest mental hurdle for high school runners is this, kind of that balance between confidence, mental fortitude. This coach also says, how are athletes able to avoid that negative inner talk? So the self-doubt that creeps in, in a confidence. And the coach also says, not just with running. So what advice, I guess, can you give us for dealing with that negative inner voice?
Yeah, so one of the things I do is sort of, I give them different sentences to say. So basically, the way the way we talk to kids as coaches, the way parents talk to their kids, shapes the emotional landscape in the brain and shapes their self-talk. So you can be, a coach can be in the role of, I'm going to start introducing new sentences in the brain. So things like, hey, you're just scratching the surface of who you can be as a runner. That sounds really exciting. Oh, wow, really? I'm just discovering who I can be as a runner. Now it sounds like, you've got one more present to open that you didn't know was under the tree, right? Or another one I'll say to them is, you know what, just go out there and get the most out of you. A big thing that kids do in high school, which is a necessary thing to do because they're learning how to be socially, emotionally in groups, is they compare themselves to others, right? So they're comparing themselves to others to figure out, how do you be in society? And it can also be detrimental because now they're saying so-and-so's faster than me, or, all that. So what I say to them, just go out there and get the most out of you. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, I'm just going to get the most out of me today. Right. So it helps shift the focus within instead of without. And so just giving them a new language. I also have something I call the 3 PPQs, the 3 post-performance questions. So after a workout or a practice, and I think you told me you have a way that you have the kids assess as well. What did go well? Had a good warm up. I didn't get injured. I kept the pressure on in the 3rd lap of the mile. What did you learn? I learned that I can go out quicker than I thought I could because I had a lot left at the end. What do you want to change for next time? I want to go out a little bit faster and come through in this and this time. That kind of thing. So now it's a win-win. They're becoming a developing athlete. It's what's a lot of teachers know is the growth mindset. So they're learning and growing from experience instead of being, knocked down by experience.
I really like that answer, May, because it's not just like thumbs up and thumbs down. There's definitely a big gray area, and just giving them the skill that to me transcends just running. What can you do better? What did you do well? What can you work on? That's great feedback. I'm going to move into the 3rd one that I have here. So Meg, with this one, the coach asked, how can you balance motivation and not pressuring athletes who have suffered with anxiety? They want to know, like, specifically, how do you deal with anxiety when an athlete has to end up like missing a meet or practice struggling with anxiety? And they also are saying, how are you able to do this but still balance with, sympathetic with discern, like being sympathetic, but not telling somebody just toughen up and just deal with it. So I guess in this question, the main theme is motivation, anxiety, and pressure, and how do all 3 of those things work together?
I would say 95% of the athletes reaching out to me are dealing with some kind of anxiety. The number one way to reduce or stop a panic attack, anxiety, overthinking is the breath. And so a good entryway, like a good, the gateway into other forms of breathing is what I call finger breathing. So teaching this to kids ahead of time, number one, gives them something to do and can help ease them to a point where then they can absorb more information that might be helpful for them. So, and it's also something that kids can do on their own in practice. So this is finger breathing. So this is inhale, so belly big and round, and then exhale. Inhale, and then exhale. And it's also tactile, right? So you're touching, right? Sensory. Another one I'll call turkey breathing. So remember how you would draw a turkey in kindergarten by tracing your finger, right? All right, so this is the inhale, this is the exhale, this is the inhale, this is the exhale, like that. And so those are sensory for people who might be on the younger end of things, middle school or your freshman, sophomore, but I do have seniors in high school who like the finger breathing too. And then there's box breathing, which is used by like Navy SEALs. So you imaginary box. So inhale for 4 seconds, You can pause at the corner for 4 seconds and then exhale for 4 seconds. But what I like to do, since these kids aren't like underwater in a combat situation like a Navy SEAL, it's not that dire. I just have them go inhale for 4, exhale for 4, inhale for 4, exhale for 4. So I'm drawing the box, but they don't have to. They can just imagine it. I have an athlete that will inhale, exhale, and draw it on her wrist, so it's still sensory. Another one is elevator breathing, and that's where you start with an in-breath into your belly. You do a couple of in-breaths into your belly, couple of in-breaths into your hips, upper legs, lower legs, and feet. So you take the elevator down. So just having things like that that they can choose from, a menu, can help them manage the anxiety that they're feeling and gain a certain sense of control. Once they have a sense of control, that they feel a little more empowered to be able to make decisions for themselves that are right for them. And then how do you balance, like, are you so you're giving that individual a tool that they can use to take care of their own mental health and be more emotionally independent. And then from there, they might have a clearer head about, if they have to, run a third race of the day that they didn't plan on running or something like that. Like, they might have a little more space around the anxiety to be able to make that decision. And of course, and you might have some ideas too on things that you do in practice proactively to help kids with that. When you teach a whole group together the breathing exercises, then you know what they do, they start supporting each other. That becomes a part of the culture, so that if somebody is having that kind of stress, you can, another athlete can go over and say, all right, let's do elevator breathing together. Something like that.
What I like about the breathing methods you mentioned is, I kind of think it's cool to practice those things. Like, we just finished spring and we're going to have a meeting for cross country next week. I can't wait to implement a lot of these, but I like when we do stuff that's different than maybe what other teams are doing, and then somebody from another team asks. So I want to do the breathing that you talked about with hands, just because it's the visual, the tactile part of it is important. But I know in our team, we always feel special when we're doing something different, maybe that nobody else does. And that can actually help another team, because someone's going to ask what's going on over there. I learned a lot. Like, we could talk a lot more. Are you okay if we kind of shift gears, and maybe if somebody wants to get in contact with you, and an athlete that wants to work with you and take a little bit further, how would they get in contact with you, Meg?
Yeah, let me share a page here that has all the different ways. So yeah, my Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and my website. Not on TikTok yet, not there yet, but yeah. And people can reach out to me. I work with athletes around the country. One of the athletes I work with is Tatum David. She's top 1,500 and 3,200 meter in top times in the US now in high school. She's in Illinois. I've got a few runners racing at Hoka Festival of Miles tonight. So, and I work with all the way from the 13-minute 2-miler to the person running, setting national records. So I used to be a school teacher, and so I bring that into my work to kind of meet people where they're at in ways that are empathetic, fun, and thoughtful. So I can work with all levels, even the little ones, because I have this here. And I have some college athletes. So yeah, I work with mostly high school and college, and mostly runners. So
Great.
yeah, and it's all by video.
Oh, so it would be very easy for somebody to get in contact with you. They wouldn't have to worry about moving back and forth. Awesome. Well, are you okay, Meg, if we just kind of wrap things up? Like I said, we could keep going on and on. Maybe we'll do another one at some point. Anything you want to conclude with today?
Yeah, I really want to recommend this book. I contributed to it. It's called How She Did It, and it was written by Molly Huddle and Sarah Slattery with the help of a tribe of women It has stories of and by women runners who were successful and had long careers back in their day. And then specialists in their field weighing in on different subjects like how to physically recover from injury, how to mentally recover from injury. And I contributed to the book. I did a workshop for a team out in the Midwest, and the coach had ordered this. Even before I did the workshop, he'd ordered this for every girl on the team. So it's very easily readable, and I highly recommend it for resilience for female runners and coaches.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thank you so much for your time. Like I said, greatly appreciate it. I know we'll connect again at some point offline, and just thank you for your time. And I'm going to take a lot of the breathing, definitely for sure. You've given me a lot of tips and skills that we can implement this summer. I'm excited to get those going.
All right. Thank you so much, Doug. Appreciate it.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.